What's up, Dad?
Welcome to MsMojo, and in this installment of Versus, we're going to determine whether classic cartoons are better than modern cartoons. We're considering classic cartoons to be anything predating the dominance of 3D animation, so roughly the early to mid 2000s.
But hey, the ocean's really beautiful from up here.
Yeah, it is.
Round 1. Stop motion. Stop motion is one of the most time-consuming animation techniques, but arguably the most rewarding. Tons of classic cartoons utilized stop motion, with Gumby being one of the earliest examples, originally released in 1953. Other popular examples include Pingu, Paddington, and Postman Pat.
Won't they be excited when they see all these parcels? They are lucky. I remember when I was their age, waiting for the post. Hey, I'd better be on my way. They'll be looking out for me.
These were all generally aimed at children, with lighthearted stories and often minimal dialogue. Experimentation was also common, with animators playing around with clay, puppets, and a whole variety of models.
Gosh, said Judy, how did you learn to do that? My Aunt Lucy taught me, said Paddington. She said it might come in useful one day.
While it was more frequently done, it was never a mainstream staple, and only a few cartoons were made using the technique. In the modern day, stop motion is still common, and digital technology has transformed the process. Animators now have access to high-resolution cameras, 3D printing, and digital compositing software, so making stop motion has never been easier. Modern shows made with stop motion include Shaun the Sheep, Pui Pui Molcar, and the adult-targeted Robot Chicken.
Mrs. Santa?
That's right. The mastermind behind this evil attack on Christmas is me.
Hybrid techniques have also begun to evolve, combining stop motion with other styles, which is regularly employed in the amazing world of Gumball. It's still not a common animation technique, and is usually reserved for high-budget cinema rather than cartoons.
Was there an earthquake, or did you just walk into the room, you dork muffin?
What is wrong with you?
Okay, I'm trying, but you're going too fast. In case you haven't noticed, it's kind of hard to text with these.
We're going to give this point to classic cartoons, since stop motion used to be so much more common, warmer, and required a lot more effort. Winner, classic cartoons. Round 2. 2D animation style. For decades, the vast majority of animation was 2D. It was the primary way to animate, giving rise to some beautiful and creative shows. SpongeBob SquarePants is a perfect example of this. The technology used is now outdated, but the creativity of its style is timeless, making it look better than most modern cartoons, including its newer seasons.
We are having a wonderful time in the South Seas, and we miss you very, very much.
Oh. My subscription to Jellyfishing Monthly's expired. Remind me to renew that, will you, Squidward?
A lot of old cartoons were meticulously hand-drawn, making them appear incredibly detailed. Color palettes were much less varied, though, limited by what materials they had access to.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
Now, 2D animation is way easier to produce. Digital tools allow for vivid colors, intricate texturing, and shading not possible in traditional animation. This also means hybrid styles, which combine 2D with CGI techniques, are more common. BoJack Horseman is a creative, modern 2D show, which often shakes up its style.
You shouldn't indulge her delusions, it's not right.
But she seemed really down, and you're never around anymore. It was getting depressing to look at her.
That's why I made her this pillowcase. You just put this over her head, and everything is fine.
On the other hand, both Rick and Morty and Family Guy inspired a whole genre of cartoons lazily copying their now generic style.
Oh my God!
What is it, Peter?
Look at this. Dennis the Menace is just shoveling snow. He's being helpful. Might as well just call it Dennis now. He's not a menace.
SpongeBob SquarePants is a useful example, with its newer, modern episodes struggling to capture the imagination of its early art style. The point goes to classic cartoons for the countless hours spent hand-painting cells. Winner, classic cartoons. Round 3. Anime. We're considering anime its own category since it's distinct enough to be set apart from Western animation. Classic anime was barely animated. Instead, it felt more like a slideshow with dialogue. This was due to economic constraints and different production techniques.
樽で海を漂流するくらいの度胸があれば、本当はやりたいこともあるんですけど。ルフィさんはそこまでして海に出て何をするんですか？
俺は海賊王になる。
They often tried to produce vast quantities of episodes for relatively cheap, since they were usually adapting large mangas. This gave it a distinctive look and feel, but always appeared more static than Western cartoons.
Goku now has the opportunity to bounce back and turn the tables on his opponent!
He's right, Krillin. It's my turn now.
Movies were a different ballpark entirely, with Akira looking better than the vast majority of modern animations, but we're only considering television cartoons here. In the modern era, this is rarely the case. One Piece perfectly shows this fact. It originally started in 1999, and most of the fights had barely any animation. Now it features some of the best animation in TV history, with stunning levels of complexity and detail.
能力者とは誰かが思い描いたいくつもの異次元を生きる者たち。
Such levels of detail have become way more normal in anime. A big reason is that it's more popular globally than ever before. Hence, there's way more money given to the art form, and it sure does show. It's easy to see who wins this round. It's modern. Winner, modern cartoons. Round 4, 3D animation style. Classic cartoons rarely featured truly 3D animation, barring stop motion. Rotoscoping could help achieve this appearance, but it always appeared somewhat 2D. Early, fully 3D digitally animated cartoons were Reboot and VeggieTales.
The next morning, everyone ran down to the lion's den to see what was left of Daniel.
It's hopeless. No one could survive a night with those lions.
They might have looked good at the time, but looking back, they just don't hold up. One of the earliest popular 3D TV shows has to be The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius.
Maybe you can reach into my knapsack!
Jimmy, I'm sure Miss Fowl will give us extensions on our homework.
Just do it! Now feel around for my shrink ray!
It definitely looked better than earlier shows, but it still has a weird, uncanny aesthetic, and all the characters have an uncomfortable style of moving. Now we have the opposite issue, where it's used way too much. It's cheap and easy to produce, requiring at a basic level just models and keyframes. It's completely oversaturated the market, and most of them don't even look that good. Of course, if effort is put in, it can look impressive. It's combined with 2D more frequently than ever. Arcane is a perfect example of this, blending both together to create a wonderfully unique art style.
I can't leave her again.
You can't change her.
I have to try.
Naturally, pure 3D shows look generally better than their classic counterparts, with Star Wars: The Clone Wars being a perfect example. But with advancements in technology, we wouldn't expect otherwise.
It is imperative that we conquer the capital city as quickly as possible and hold it.
Our biggest problem is going to be the local militia. The Umbarans have aligned themselves with the Separatists and are heavily armed.
Modern 3D cartoons have wildly varying qualities, but it's a big step up from classic 3D cartoons, which were few and far between. That's why this round goes to modern cartoons. Winner, modern cartoons. Round 5, production process.
It is the blueprint of a piece of equipment designed to make cartoons more realistic and enjoyable. This is the plan for a super cartoon camera. We call it the multiplane camera.
Classic cartoons were so much more labor-intensive, and corners could rarely be cut. As mentioned earlier, a lot of them were hand-painted onto transparent cells. Detailed backgrounds were painstakingly painted, and hundreds of character cells were placed on top. Rotoscoping was also done, which involved tracing over live-action footage, but this was also intense. Lip syncing would be a serious challenge, and special effects were beyond complicated. The upside is it gave them a distinctive look, which few modern cartoons can replicate.
Let's follow the storyboard of the sequence in which Kaneda has to bring his bike to a screeching halt to avoid being injured by an explosion. Otomo's layout is tremendously exciting and highly realistic. We can almost sense the full impact of the action from his drawings alone.
Unfortunately, it was way less accessible and much more difficult to become an animator, whereas now everyone can pick it up at home. Now everything is digital, and anyone can make complex animations if they have the time, as opposed to before, when you could barely get by without a team. Higher quality animations can be made with much less effort, but as the saying goes, limitations foster creativity.
And the Plubus and Grumbo are shaved away. That leaves you with a regular old Plumbus.
I always wondered how Plumbuses got made.
Digital advancements allow for a broad range of styles and experimentation, but it's not as common as we'd hope. The modern cartoon market is flooded with lazy cartoons, many looking like Rick and Morty copycats. Although if we head to the internet, you can find countless different types of animation by independent creators, which have been blossoming on the web for over a decade.
全くセルがなくなったのは2002年ぐらいから全くセルを使わずにデジタルのみで制作されるというそういう制作に変わっています。
This is why this round goes to classic cartoons for the remarkable effort put into producing them. Winner, classic cartoons. Round 6, writing quality. Older cartoons were simpler and episodic, with few overarching plot lines, and were mainly made for children. They also relied heavily on slapstick humor, as was the case for Looney Tunes.
Flattery'll get you nowhere, and you can't fool me again.
Huh? Yeah, that's right, Doc. This little bitsy animal is made out of straw.
But you're not.
Visual comedy was the main way to tell jokes, since the medium allows for so much creative imagery. Themes covered were usually lighthearted, clear-cut conflicts, like a chase or a competition, with a simple resolution. It seems like it took a long time for cartoons to switch focus from easy-to-digest entertainment to deep storytelling and addressing complex themes. Now, some of the best-written shows are animated. Take Adventure Time or Avatar: The Last Airbender. Both these shows cover complex themes with phenomenally well-done overarching plot lines. The humor has evolved massively too, straying from simple slapstick jokes to more creative styles of humor.
I know you must be surprised to see me here.
Not really,
Since you followed us all over the world. Right. Well, anyway.
Wordplay has become sharper, quicker, and more reflective of adult sensibilities. It's not always about laughs. Adult cartoons also explore dark humor and discuss more serious themes and issues. Dialogue that appeals to both children and adults is more regularly found too, with writers trying to make children's cartoons entertaining for all ages.
You wouldn't be much of a hero without a villain, and you do love being a hero, don't you? The cheering children, the swooning women, you love it so much it's made you my most reliable accomplice.
Accomplice?
What are you? You could have crushed me any time you wanted, and it wasn't the law or the will of the people that stopped you. It was your ego.
In the modern era, cartoons are much more than just children's entertainment. They've been embraced for the wonderfully creative art form that they are. Winner, modern cartoons. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You'll have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Round 7, characters. Characters used to be one-dimensional, simple archetypes with clear and easily recognizable traits. For instance, you'd usually have the hero, the villain, the sidekick, etc.
Okay, Doc. This is the spot. We'll start digging for groundhogs. That's that.
Growth was rarely found, especially in shows like Tom and Jerry. Deep narratives and personal growth just weren't a focus. Not that these characters weren't lovable, they just weren't complex. Instead, they were idealized to fit the narrative, and to an extent harder to connect with. Scooby-Doo had a handful of core characters, and most people could relate to at least one of them. They all had defined personalities, but would never evolve, being pretty much the same character for years on end.
And I'd have found it if it wasn't for you snoopers. How can I ever thank you young people?
Just point us to the nearest pizza parlor before Scoob and I collapse from starvation.
Modern cartoons have changed focus entirely, and multidimensional, evolving characters are way more commonly found. BoJack Horseman, for instance, has some of the most complex and human characters in television history, despite most being animals.
Some asexuals are also aromantic, but others have relationships like anyone else.
But involving boats?
I feel like you're getting really hung up on the boats thing.
So, it's not weird for an ace to get married?
No, if you found someone who really accepts you for who you are, go for it.
They're also much more diverse, representing a plethora of different identities and issues. Steven Universe focuses on Steven, a young boy learning about his identity, and features emotional arcs centered around family dynamics and gender identity.
Together, we'll be unstoppable!
No!
What?
What we had wasn't healthy. I never want to feel like I felt with you. Never again.
In the past, these ideas would be considered too adult for children's cartoons. But in the modern day, children are becoming increasingly exposed to such struggles. That's definitely a good thing, since excluding them from the media doesn't remove them from reality. No prizes for guessing this round. It's modern cartoons for the win overall. Winner, modern cartoons. Do you agree with the result, or do you think classic cartoons should have won? Let us know what you think and why in the comments section.
We just felt it was time for a change.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from MsMojo and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.